Hello and ciao from Rome as Butt Fumble Sports is live on what is a Wednesday night for us, a Wednesday afternoon for you if you're watching stateside. Hello everyone, Butt Fumble Sports with you on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and on X. No Instagram while we're overseas because we don't want to overload our Airbnb internet. It's wonderful to be with you guys. We are going to be answering your fantasy football questions for at least the next hour, hopefully talking you guys through the right decisions to make through NFL Week 4. We'll talk some sports betting as well. We're also, of course, going to talk about the waiver wire. Who should you be targeting? Who should you be picking up? It is great to be with you guys. Hope you guys are enjoying your day. You are halfway through your work week. If you're at least on the East Coast, you're almost there. But I hope you're getting excited because Week 4, a lot of things are going to be determined in the next couple of days because Week 4 closes the first month of the season. If you like to think about the NFL season the way I do, you take it in 4-game spurts as you kind of develop some knowledge around these teams. 4 games worth of data is going to tell us a lot. We're going to find out who's the elite. We're going to find out who are the bums of the league. We're finding a lot of that out even in Week 3. But really excited to get going with you guys. If you guys have a fantasy football question, throw it in the comments section. Really excited to be able to answer your questions over the next hour or so. If you guys do have a question, throw it in there. Bob Jeff Supreme over on YouTube has a question. I traded Breece Hall for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Chuba Hubbard. Did I fuck up? The answer is, I don't think you effed up, but what I would say is I'd rather have Breece Hall. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. makes the trade better than an F up, but what I would say is I'd rather have Breece Hall overall. So I do think your opponent got the better of the deal, but at the same time, I don't think it's a complete F up. I think there's some room to say you got a good player in exchange. Appreciate the question. If you guys do have questions, throw them on the comments section. Like Junior is asking, Jennings or Dobbins? Great question. I lean towards Jennings at first blush. Kansas City Chiefs' run defense so far this year remains a strength of theirs. They are, maybe bottom 12 in the league in run yards allowed. They're 113 rushing yards allowed. But with no Justin Herbert or with a limited Justin Herbert because of his ankle, I really don't like Dobbins this week, Junior. I lean towards Jennings. Shazzy, 1166. Should I drop Spears and pick up Swift? I would. Spears' value's been going down ever since Tony Pollard established himself as the number 1 running back in Tennessee. D. Farland, 12. Brian Robinson Jr. or Jennings? Really good question on this one. What makes this one a tricky one for me is the Washington Commanders this week are going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals' run defense so far this year, it's just bad enough where I lean towards Brian Robinson, D. Farland. I'm going to lean there just barely. It's very, very close. One contributing factor to why I'm going Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler is out. It was announced he has an injury. He will be out. I think it's a concussion, but I'm not 100%. He is out for this upcoming week. Brian Robinson Jr., more carries, more opportunities. I like him, D. Farland. Brian, do I accept this trade? Trade Rice for Keenan Allen, Tank Dell, and Jennings. You're giving up the best player for a whole lot of mystery. I think this is a classic Family Guy example. It could be anything. It could, what's in the mystery box? It could be anything. It could even be, the thing I already have. So in this example, by the way, that was a terrible reenactment of the Family Guy skit. But anyways, what I would say is Rice is already a bird in the hand. Why are you going for 3 I don't knows in the bush? I'd stick with Rice. I wouldn't make the trade, Brian. Luke Stotts, Shakir or Shaheed? I'm leaning slightly towards Shakir right now. First of all, the dude has been a ball magnet. Not trying to make a funny joke, but literally every ball that's been thrown his way, he has caught this year. Every target's resulted in a reception. So he has not only been the go-to guy so far for Josh Allen, but he's been incredibly productive and successful. Additionally, Bills play the Baltimore Ravens this upcoming week. And as I've mentioned to you guys before, the Ravens are right now the worst pass defense in the NFL, 291 pass yards allowed per game. I really like Josh Allen. I really like Shakir. I'm going to go Shakir over Shaheed, Luke. Appreciate your questions no matter where they come from, no matter the platform they're coming from. Like Christian Vasquez is over on YouTube. Trade Zach Moss and Pickens for DJ Moore. I'm actually not in favor of that trade, Christian, and here's why. I feel like Moore and Pickens have very similar value right now. You don't quite know what you're getting from their quarterbacks. They are number 1 receivers on their team, but it's all about whether their quarterback can be good enough that week to give them production. I feel like Pickens for more is almost a fair trade. Throwing in Moss, I feel like you're getting the worst of it. So Christian, I'm going to steer you away and say don't do that trade. Don't do it. Rumple for Skim. Could you also grab Downs, Christian Watson from waivers? Pick 2 for the week. Got it. Pick 2 for the week. Okay. Pick 2 for the week. Pull it up. So, Rumple, we got Pickens going up against the Colts. We got Waddle and the Miami Dolphins. Just not going up against Tennessee. Not crazy about Kirk, B. Cooks, Jerry Jeudy. I don't like a lot of these options. I got to be honest with you. I'm not going to guys on the waiver wire. Those don't get me excited either. At the moment, I'm leaning slightly, I think, towards Brandon Cooks being one of those players, but he has underperformed so far this year. But Brandon Cooks probably has one of the best matchups out of this group, Rumple. But overall, I really don't like your team. I'm not going to lie. For the moment, looking at the passing yards allowed, I'd probably lean towards Pickens and Cooks. But I'm not going to lie with you. I think your team is a lot of name and not a lot of substance. I might be looking to make some trades because I actually think you have some vulnerabilities. Kike is Guap. Start Jets, Bears, or Chiefs defense this week? It's a great question. I'm looking at the Chiefs in part because I want to see what the injuries are to the Chargers. If Joe Alt is out, if Justin Herbert is out, the Chiefs defense would be the one for me. But other than that, Kike, I'm going to take the Jets. Jets at home against the Denver Broncos team that might be feeling themselves a little bit too much after last week's win. I am really not high on the Denver Broncos this week. I even put this out there now. I have Jets money line. I'm very high on Jets money line. I think the Jets have found something. I think the Broncos got their win for the first 4 weeks last week. So I think the Jets defense is going to play well against that rookie quarterback. Devin Durant, Kmet, or Kelsey this week? And if Smith is out, do I start Jennings? I would start Jennings. Between Kmet and Kelsey, it's gotten to the point now where it's tough for me to try to convince you to stick with Kelsey, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't think Kmet has more value, so the options kind of lead me to believe that still Kelsey's the best start. Moby over on TikTok is asking James Conner, JT, or Moss. Unfortunately, JT has a really tough matchup. I would love to be able to say go with him, but it's just not the case. It's going to be Zach Moss. Zach Moss is going up against the Carolina Panthers run defense that's bottom 5 in the league. I know it looked a little bit better last week against the Raiders, but the Panthers are a terrible run defense. Moby, it's going to be Zach Moss for me just based on the matchup. Garrett Irvin, do I give up Mark Andrews and DK for Ferguson and Tank Dell? No. Terrible trade idea. I hate everything about it, Garrett. It makes no sense to me. I'm already seeing this in a couple of the comments. Don't be a trade sucker. Don't fall for traps. I think right now people are putting out trade offers that are intended to play off people's assumptions after 3 weeks of football, overreacting to what we just saw. Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. What we believe. I put this out on my Instagram story. There was a great stat about last year's players, where they ranked after the first 3 weeks of the season. For example, do you remember last year when A.J. Brown through the first 3 weeks of the season was just having a miserable year and everyone was like, is A.J. Brown done? Should I trade A.J. Brown? He went on to be one of the best fantasy owns of the year. I think weeks 4 through 10, he was the number 1 fantasy wide receiver. So that said, don't overreact to the first 3 games. If I told you that a player in fantasy baseball performed this way in the first 3 weeks, you wouldn't go, oh, Aaron Judge is failing in April, I'll sell him the rest of the year. No, Aaron Judge had a bad April. He went on to hit 56 home runs so far this year. So that's another example of don't overreact to what seems like a big sample size because football is only 17 games, but 3 games is still small enough where I'm not going to overreact. So make sure you're not taking trades that really aren't good. Brian, is Keenan Allen a safe flex this week or wait to see how he performs? I certainly won't say he's a safe play. Keenan Allen and especially Caleb Williams has shown me nothing to believe that the Chicago Bears are a safe play. The Los Angeles Rams are very bad against the pass. So yes, I'm willing to take a chance on him in the flex, but I don't want to say like he's a safe play either way. I think there's absolute risk associated with it. Jack, Allen Lazard or Jacoby Myers? I'm a little bit worried about Allen Lazard, not because he's not doing well, but the Jets have come out and said Mike Williams is going to get more opportunities based on what they saw on last Thursday night's game. So that does concern me a little bit. Going to the Jacoby Myers matchup this week, the Las Vegas Raiders play the Cleveland Browns. Browns so far this year haven't been as good a pass defense as we've come to expect, but I still think I like Allen Lazard less than I like Myers. Let me repeat that. I like Myers more than I like Lazard. Broncos, second best pass defense in the NFL, and that Mike Williams note. I'll take Jacoby Myers, Jack, but really, I don't love the options. It's a coin flip for me. John, start 3, sit 2. I'll just say who I'm going to start. Tyreek, Adams, Reed, Moss, Deontay Johnson. I'd start Moss. I'd start Reed. Between the other 3, I'm probably leaning at the moment. I'm probably leaning at the moment towards Davante Adams, I think. Even though I just talked about the Browns' pass defense. That group of receivers, I'm not big on Tyreek Hill. I'll go Adams, Reed, and Moss. John, I'll go Adams, Reed, and Moss as the starts. Adam Fox, great to see you, loyal subscriber. Will you take a Achane for Montgomery and Cooper Kupp? Would I receive Achane for Montgomery and Kupp? I wouldn't. Here's why. I think the difference between Achane and Montgomery, maybe some more carries for Achane. I don't know if it's going to be that many more points. Given how Montgomery scores touchdowns and his reliability in terms of health, Achane has an injury history. I understand Cooper Kupp's not getting you a lot of value right now. He's getting you no value, and throughout the season he may not deliver what you think. But I actually don't think you're getting the better of the deal. I'd rather have Montgomery and Cooper Kupp, wait on Kupp and hold on to Montgomery. Achane, I know he's had some good weeks, but again, what's the quarterback situation in Miami? How good do I feel about that team overall? I like Achane a lot, but this trade is a no for me, Adam. Drew, if Devontae is out, who do I start at the flex? Keenan Allen, Bucky Ford, Terry, or Shakir? It's Shakir for me. I'm going to keep banging the drum on Shakir. I think Shakir is the play. I do want to make note about Terry McLaurin going up against the Arizona Cardinals. It's not a good enough matchup, but I'm starting to feel like Terry McLaurin's turning that corner with Jaden Daniels, so I keep him on the radar, but for the moment, it's going to be Shakir for me. It's a good week to have a couple of the players that you have, but that said, Shakir is going to be the play for me. I even brought up, I really like Jerome Ford. I mentioned him yesterday going up against the Raiders. So you've got a couple guys I like, Drew, but it's going to be Shakir. Marcel? Bowers or Pitts at the tight end position. Bowers or Pitts at the tight end position. I got to go Brock Bowers. And here's my reasoning. He's tight end 1 in the league. I got to ride with it. He's been phenomenal so far this year. The matchup against the Browns is not a good one. Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Saints. Saints pass defense, a little bit more suspect. Pitts might have the better matchup. I'm going to ride Brock Bowers right now until he falls off that TE1 mantle. Nick Strodamus, start T. Higgins or Jawan Jennings? Jawan Jennings is the question. T. Higgins and the Cincinnati Bengals going up against Carolina. You might be surprised to find the Carolina Panthers pass defense is actually kind of, I won't say good, but it's better than you may think. Do I really like starting T. Higgins or Jawan Jennings this week? I don't really like either one. I'm going to lean slightly towards Jennings. The Patriots passing defense has given up 247 pass yards. Christian Gonzalez is going to go on Brandon Ayuk. That's going to open up opportunities for Jennings. Nick Strodamus, I'm going to go Jennings just barely. Landon Nettles, start 2. Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, or Shakir. Shakir is absolutely one of them. Mike Evans is going to be the other. Garrett Wilson going up against Patrick Surtain the second. Just going to avoid that one. Going over to YouTube for a moment. Michael Hayes, trade DK for Higgins and Kittle. No. Here's the reason for that. DK, the margin of difference between DK and Higgins, I think significant enough where Kittle doesn't fill the gap, doesn't make up the difference. I'll say no to that one. No on that trade, Michael Hayes. I'd rather have DK. Christian, Adams, Wilson, or Scary Terry. For this week, as I mentioned a moment ago, Tough to kind of pick between that group. I'll go Adams just barely, but that's a tricky matchup. I think Adams and Terry, the two I fall to, but I'll go Adams barely. Ethan Ingram, trade Odunze and Steele for JSN and Komet? No. Here's the reason why. JSN might be better than Odunze, but the difference between what Carson Steele could be and Komet, I'd rather have the running back. A lot of the trades I'm seeing right now, I think you guys are giving up too much value. You may think they're fair trades now. Wait 4 or 5 weeks and you'll look back and go, man, I wish I had held on to that other player. I wish I had not made that deal. So I'm going to talk you down from a number of these deals. Blade, Bone, Z. I'm going to say Shakir. Shakir's got the better matchup. I'm going to go with Shakir. Nuv, DK, Cowboys, Steelers, or Vikings defense. I'm leaning slightly, I think, towards the Steelers. Steelers have been elite defensively so far this year. They're playing a Colts team that seems at times to be allergic to the football. So I'm going to lean just slightly towards the Steelers. That game is in Indianapolis on the road. Does that change anything in terms of the pick? No. Sticking with the Steelers. Ryan, BMMS. Reduce that down. Just condense that. Figure out one question and ask that, because I'm not going to read all that while we got so many questions coming in. Guys, we average around 10,000 viewers a show, so if you think you're going to get multiple questions answered, unlikely, and if you write a long question, it's unlikely to get answered because it slows things down, so just a warning for you. Christian, you got to go Dak. Dak over AR-15. Dak over AR-15. Hi, I'm Toby. Would you start Kirk or Jordan Addison at the flex if he plays? I think I got to go Kirk because you kind of answered it right there. If Jordan Addison plays, I'm not crazy about the health status of Jordan Addison. I got to pay attention to it a little bit more. Green Bay's pass defense has been a little suspect. If Jordan Addison were a full go, healthy, no issues, I'd probably lean towards Jordan Addison, given Kirk hasn't really broken through. But for the moment, I just don't know if I can trust Jordan Addison enough. Obviously, Jacksonville this week, going up against Houston. The Houston pass defense so far this year is pretty good. I don't like the matchup, so keep an eye on the injury report. But for the moment, I'm not going to take the player who's been battling injury for the past few weeks. Let's get back to some of the questions on TikTok. Should I start Flowers, Mooney, or Amari Cooper? That's a tricky one for me. I really want to say Flowers, but at the same time, I don't know if that's the best play. I think it's certainly better than Mooney. The question for me is, can Amari Cooper repeat the performance from last week? Raiders pass defense, giving up 226 pass yards per game. It's between Flowers and Cooper. It's a coin flip for me. I think I got to go Amari Cooper. The matchup for Flowers going up against the Buffalo Bills is just tricky enough. I feel like Amari Cooper's the better play. Benny traded Achane, Tyreek, Rashad White, Moss, and AR for Garrett Wilson, JT, Laporta, and Mahomes. I like the trade a lot. I'll give that one a thumbs up, Benny, on standby. Romeo, Roma Dunze, or Tank Dell at the flex. Houston Texans, as mentioned a moment ago, going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has been one of the worst pass defenses in the league, third worst pass defense in the league. I'll go Tank Dell, Romeo. Romeo, I'll go Tank Dell. Caleb traded Pollard, Shakir for Jacobs, McLaurin, and Odunze. Caleb, you won that trade. Caleb, I think you won it. Brian Conley, DK or Garrett Wilson. I got to go DK Metcalf. I mentioned Garrett Wilson. Really tough matchup this week. Going up against Patrick Surtain II, one of the best cornerbacks in all of the NFL. Additionally, Seattle playing against the Detroit Lions. Lions pass defense this year, giving up 216 pass yards per game. I'll lean towards DK. Again, Broncos, second best pass defense in the NFL. Brian Conley, I'll go DK Metcalf. Diego, trade Garrett Wilson for Rashee Rice. I like the trade. I think it's going to end up being a very fair trade as the season goes along. But as of right now, I like the Rice side of it. Logan, Jennings, McLaurin, or Johnson. I'm leaning towards Jennings just barely. C. Bates, Singletary. Devin Singletary, I think, is an RB1 caliber player this week going up against the Dallas Cowboys run defense that is the worst in the NFL. I've brought this up a lot. Cowboys are giving up 185 rushing yards per game. Devin Singletary may not be behind the best O-line, but I think he'll have a good game. Aaron, I'm going to go Justin Fields just barely. I like the rushing yards opportunity that he'll have in that game. Tyler, Jameer, or Devon Achane. I'll go Gibbs just barely. I don't really like either one. I don't really like either one. I'm going to lean, I think, just slightly towards Achan, Tyler, but I'm not crazy about either one this week. I don't think either one's going to have a great week. When will Garrett Wilson start producing? He's got a couple touchdowns this year. Even in the games he hasn't been great. He hasn't been a complete bust, maybe week one. But other than that, I feel like he's actually done okay, given these are the low-producing weeks. So I'm not going to jump on Garrett Wilson's neck too much. He does play Minnesota in England in week 5. Then he plays Buffalo. Then he plays Pittsburgh. So it doesn't get that much easier for him over the coming weeks. But back half of the season, I think he's got a lot of value. Frankie, Ayuk and Daddle for Etienne. No, Frankie, unless you really need the running back, I don't like the trade because Ayuk's value continues to go up. Presley Hart, Shakir or Flowers, I'd go Shakir. Presley Hart, I'd go Shakir. Mrs. Lady, trade Gibbs for Olave and Allen. I have St. Louis. Who's St. Louis? I don't understand what St. Louis is. Amon-Ra St. Brown? I'm confused by the question because I thought the NFL left St. Louis, Mrs. Lady. Bob, trade Rashad White for Diggs. I think that trade has some merit. I think Diggs' value is going to continue to increase while Rashad White's is going to come down. I don't love giving up the running back, but Bob, I actually think it's a good trade for you. I'll do it. Christian 100, trade Nico and Aaron Jones for James Cook. The answer is no, and it's not that I don't love James Cook. It's that Aaron Jones is performing well enough where the combination of Nico Collins and Aaron Jones, they're worth more than James Cook. I don't think you're getting the better of the deal. I think it looks good because James Cook's on fire, but if you actually look at the stats season long, you're giving up more points than you're getting. So I don't like the trade overall, Christian. I would even push to say if you want James Cook, Nico Collins, and a lesser player than Aaron Jones, Jones is performing too well. I don't think it's a fair trade. Jake, start Rice or Olave this week? Good question. So, Rashee Rice and the Kansas City Chiefs this week are going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers' pass defense has actually been pretty good. 175 pass yards allowed so far this year. Meanwhile, Saints going up against the Falcons on the road. Falcons, very similar, 176 passing yards allowed per game. So kind of a similar story between these two teams. I'll lean just slightly towards Rice, because what I'm seeing between him and Mahomes, the chemistry, and also the start Rice has gotten off to, it doesn't mean I don't like Olave, but I'm leaning Rice. The other part of that is probably Olave is going up against A.J. Terrell, a pretty good corner overall. Doesn't get interceptions, but a very good cover corner. Rice's matchup against Asante Samuel Jr. I think is a little easier, so I'll take Rice, Jake. Rice over Olave. User 7737, Wan'Dale Robinson or Devontae Smith. User 77, that one's going to be answered for you. If Devontae Smith is out because of concussion, you know who you're going with. So I think that actually answers itself. I don't need to waste time on it. Tylen, start Danny Dimes or AR-15. This one's going to shock you. I'm going to take Danny Dimes, and here's the reason. Rushing yards. Not only is Devin Singletary going to get yards tomorrow night, I expect Danny Dimes to get some rushing yards as well. Is Anthony Richardson due? He is so due. He's also facing one of the best defenses in the league. You could argue the Steelers' defense is the best in the league right now. I don't want anything to do with AR-15. This is going to shock you, but I'm going to take Danny Dimes, Tylen. Danny Dimes. Justin, I just traded Derrick Henry, Deontay Johnson, and Jamison Williams for Bijan and Pirine. Is that good? I wish you had gotten more than Pirine. I love the Bijan side. Do I like the Pirine side? It's okay. I don't hate this trade. It's got a lot of brand names in it. Henry and Williams are coming off some good couple of weeks. But that said, I like Bijan so much. Justin, jury's out on this one. I'm not sure. I don't like the Pirine part, but I like the Bijan part, so kind of on the fence. Nico starts Singletary over Olave. Nico, Singletary over Olave. Peter Fitzpatrick. Which defense would you start? Raiders, Dolphins, or the Vikings defense? This one's tough for me because I really want to say the Vikings defense going up against Green Bay. Vikings defense so far this year against the pass, though, not really what I want it to be. 244 passing yards allowed. Could be a whole lot better. Raiders defense looked terrible last week. Am I returning my faith in them just because they're going up against Deshaun Watson and the Browns? And then, of course, we have Miami going up against Tennessee. and Will Levis, who throws enough interceptions to almost make it worth it on his own. For the moment, I'm leaning Dolphins. I can't believe I'm saying that, but the Dolphins' pass defense out of this group is actually the best one. So I lean slightly towards the Dolphins. I think they're the best play this week out of the group you mentioned, Peter. Brian, pick 2. Brian, I hate these options. Hate them. I'm going to say Terry McLaurin is 1, but boy, do I hate these options. I'm not going to be shy about it. I don't think your team's going to make the playoffs if this is the squad you have. I'll go Chuba Hubbard as the other player. Chuba Hubbard and McLaurin. But right now, Brian, I think you're up against the 8 ball. Tyler, Tyreek Hill or Juwan Jennings? It's a tough one for me, and here's why. Tyreek Hill is going to be going up against Snead on Monday Night Football. That Monday night doubleheader happens again this upcoming Monday. That's a really tough matchup for him. I think he does play better, but Tennessee so far, 3rd best pass defense in the NFL. I'm going to go Juwan Jennings for another week, Tyler. Gov Mule 99, Miami defense. Gov Mule 99, I'm going Miami just barely. Dom, start Kelsey or Bowers. I got to start Bowers. Until I see Kelsey turn it on, I'm going to stick with Bowers. D, Achan and Worthy for Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't like the trade overall. I like Worthy enough and I like Achan enough. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is a big upgrade over Worthy, but is it worth Achan, who's a fringe RB1, high RB2? I don't think so. I don't like the trade overall. If you have depth at running back and you feel like you can give that up to get Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe I can be talked into a D, but overall, kind of not feeling it. Nick Tyrone just traded Zach Moss and A.J. Brown for McCaffrey, McLaurin, and Madison. You lost that deal, buddy. You lost that trade by a good margin. Creed Erickson, dynasty trade, Hill and Mason for Reed and a 2025 first. Creed, I think you lost that trade as well. Creed, I don't like the deal. Romeo, thoughts on Cole Kmet? The Bears' offense is disappointing me. I don't have a lot of faith in Caleb Williams because I'm seeing that his offensive line can't protect him. And beyond that, he is what we all feared he would be. He scrambles too much. He knows too little about professional defenses to identify what he needs to. My opinion on Caleb Williams is going down. It's not plummeting, but it's coming down from where it was. And Cole Kmet is kind of a negative bystander to all of this. I just don't get a good vibe about Cole Kmet because I don't get a good vibe about Caleb Williams until I start to see him play consistently well. And by the way, finding his tight end, he just doesn't. I think there are times where he could, and he just doesn't. So I'm not as high on Cole Kmet as I was maybe even preseason. Packers card exchange, Bowers or Kincaid? Great question. That's a really tough one for me because I really like Buffalo this week going up against Baltimore. Baltimore so bad against the pass. All lean Kincaid. Packers card exchange, you finally found someone I probably like more than Bowers, though. It's tough. I will go Kincaid. Daniel 0828. Singletary would be the play for me, and it's not close. Daniel 0828, it's Singletary. Dev, Terry, Ford, or Mooney? Dev, it's Ford. Dev, it's Ford. Garrett Allen, who do I shop take? Nope. Garrett Allen, sorry, but I don't answer open-ended questions like that. Just a big time waster. Do some research, find some possible trades, and then ask, should I do player A for player B? We'll answer those all day, but who should I go after for these players? Nope, waste of time. Scott, in part, just to complete the thought, there are so many variables in your league we're unaware of. Who has depth at wide receiver or running back? What owners are afraid to, like Garrett Allen? That's such an open-ended question, hard for me to answer. Sports prods, I'd go Rashee Rice. Sports prods, Rashee Rice by a good margin. Don't know Juan, great to see you. Jamison Williams, Wandale Robinson, or Mooney. I'm going to lean just slightly, I think, towards Mooney. I don't love it because I'm big on Jamison Williams, but that's season long. This week, it's got to be Mooney. Don't know one, I'd go Mooney. Jack, Mixon and James Cook. No, we're not doing rankings either. Sorry. Waste of time. Waste of time. We got a lot of people answering questions. If you guys are looking for rankings, I'm sure there are other social media accounts that do that. So I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt for you viewers, but I'm trying to be quick and answer as many questions as we can. So open-ended or rankings or things like that, you can go take it to someone else. Brian Conley, pick 3. Kyron, Achan, Connor, or Singletary. Well, Singletary is absolutely in that group. That's a no-brainer. It's tough for me because I really want to say Kyron Williams coming off that monster game, obviously, last week. How's the Bears' defense so far this year? just bad enough where I'll say Kyren Williams as well. Brian, I will start Kyren Williams. And then I'm going to go Achan. Tennessee Titans run defense, giving up about 124 rush yards per game. Brian, I'm going to go Kyren, Achan, and Singletary. And it's going to be James Conner, I think, that kind of gets shafted this week. They're going up against the Commanders' run defense that actually has performed well enough, slightly better than the Bears. That's why it's going to be Singletary, Achan, and Kyren Williams, Brian Conley. Those are the three. Angelo, Jones, Darnold, or Smith need one for quarterback. I hate to tell you, Daniel Jones is looking decent for me. I'm not going to say he'd be the one I'd automatically start, but the Detroit Lions, you know what? It's going to be Geno Smith. Angelo, I'll go Geno Smith just barely, I think. I'm going to go Geno Smith just barely. I don't feel good about any of them, to be honest. I think Sam Darnold comes down to earth a little bit. I know the Packers' pass defense hasn't been great, but I don't feel like on the road he's going to be able to duplicate what he's done so far at home. Jones, rushing yards, I really like. Do I like him enough in the pass? It's between Jones and Smith. I might lean towards Smith just because I trust Geno more than I trust Daniel Jones. Brandon, pick 3. Hill, Ford, Dobbins, Jennings, Reed, and Dell. I'm going to go Reed, I'm going to go Ford, and I'm going to go... It really should be Dell. It should be Dell, Reed, and Ford should be the 3. Brandon, it's Dell, Reed, and Ford should be the 3. It's closer between Jennings and Reed than I want it to be. I still think I lean towards Reed barely, but Ford, Reed, and Dell, but it's close with Jennings between him and Reed. Ryan Lewis, start Mixon or Deontay Johnson. Is Mixon even playing? Ryan, I think that's going to answer itself. Achan for Bijan, I already got offer. You're getting Bijan, Landon. If you're getting the Bijan side, I do the trade. Presley Hart, Kelsey for Kittle? No. Terrible trade. Don't like it at all. Presley Hart, I wouldn't do it. I know Kelsey looks washed. It's only 3 weeks. I'm not going to overreact. Justin, James Conner and Zay Flowers for Jamar Chase and Zamir White. I'm going to say no to that, and here's why. The difference between Chase and Flowers, I don't think is made up by the difference between Conner and White. I think James Conner's the better owned season long. I think Zay Flowers is going to be good enough in the Baltimore offense where Jamar Chase is a big upgrade at wide receiver, but not big enough to match the margin of difference between Zamir White and James Conner. So no for me. Rob Cummins, Purdy or Mahomes in a big one? Well, the 49ers going up against the Patriots. Patriots pass defense has struggled. I'm going to say Purdy just barely. Rob Cummins, I'm going to say Purdy just barely. Rosie's butt. Start 2. I'll start Drake London and I'll start Drake London and Rashee Rice. Rosie's butt. I'll start London and Rice. Kobe Fisher, trade Achan or JT for Chase. I hate that trade. I hate everything about that trade, Kobe, because you're acting like Mason, Stevenson, and Brooks are a locked-in starting 3 running backs. Mason so far this year has been either really good or disappointed. Stevenson I don't trust, and Brooks we haven't seen play yet. So Kobe, I don't like this trade. I wouldn't do it. I know you want to upgrade at wide receiver, but I'm not giving up Achan and JT. No, if you want to trade Stevenson, if you want to trade Mason, if you want to trade Brooks even, go for it. I'm holding on to Achan and JT. One of the things I'll say, it is so easy to find a stud wide receiver. Perfect example. Jawan Jennings last week was a wide receiver 1 across the league, and I bet you almost no one had him on their lineup to start the fantasy football season. You can find a week-to-week wide receiver 1. You know how hard it is to find a running back that isn't owned who all of a sudden becomes an RB1? It is so rare. Value running backs over every other position. It is so hard to find the next great running back. Like, Jordan Mason doesn't happen. Even that, we've kind of anticipated that he might have value. To find a running back off the scrap heap waiver wire and plug them in as an RB1 or RB2 is so rare. You can do that at wide receiver almost every single week. Almost every week there's one wide receiver who pops that most people never saw coming. I would not do that trade, Kobe. I think it's a terrible idea. JB Smoke, I like that trade. Mason for Bijan, I would do that one. Tem, trade Hill and Jacobs for Cook and Evans. Wow. I don't love it because the difference between Hill and Evans is significant. But I think it's a fair trade because Evans has his quarterback, Hill doesn't. I think it's a fair trade, Tem. I'm not necessarily on one side or another. I think it's fair. I think both owners probably get what they really want. Bob, Lockett and Shaheed for Brian Robinson Jr. and Shakir. Yes, Bob, I actually love that trade moving forward. I think you're getting good value for the future and moving on from some guys who have already had a couple of games of success. 556, who would flex, Singletary or Flowers? 556, it's Singletary. 556, it is Singletary. We have been rocking now for about 45 minutes. Show goes fast when we got questions going. Make sure you guys are throwing your questions and comments in the chat. Bobby Hill, Rodgers or Hurts? Yikes. Okay, so the Eagles this week play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Eagles are coming off that ugly loss. The Eagles are coming off the win. Offense didn't look great, though, so I'm a little skeptical. That said, Buccaneers' pass defense has been vulnerable in ways the Broncos have not. So I'm going to lean just slightly, I think, towards starting Jalen Hurts, Bobby Hill. I'll go Jalen Hurts just barely. Jorge, great to see you. Jorge, I would go Breece Hall. I'd go Breece Hall and Ford. Breece Hall and Ford. Lucas Rathwell, pick 2. Gibbs, Kamara. Kamara looks like he might be out. Kamara did not practice today. There's concern about Kamara missing this week. So for all you Alvin Kamara owners, might be a week in which you need to find a replacement. Lucas Rathwell, I'm going to go Gibbs and Etienne. I think just barely. I just don't like Dobbins' matchup against the Chiefs. Ethan Ingram, trade Garrett Wilson and Higgins Flowers for London and Shakir. No. I don't like the trades you're suggesting because I think you're going to look back and regret it. Shakir's got good value. I'm not going to say he doesn't. Is it matching Higgins or Flowers' value rest of season? You're trading Garrett Wilson after his 3 worst weeks of the year potentially. Ethan, I think you're just overreacting. I think you're chasing who you think is going to be good now and giving up who's probably going to be better over the course of the year. Nuve DK, Ferguson or McBride. To all you Ferguson owners, I want to apologize. I told you to sit him last week because I was worried that he wasn't fully back to health. Clearly, the Cowboys knew what they were doing. They threw him the ball a ton, so he actually had a much better game than I anticipated. Happens, but I wasn't going to risk the injury being a big negative there. On the other side, the Arizona Cardinals, because you're asking about Trey McBride, Cardinals are going up against the Washington Commanders, who last year were one of the worst defenses against tight ends. I'll go Trey McBride. Commanders, second most passing yards allowed. Last year were terrible against tight ends. I'll take McBride just barely. Hojo, Ferguson, or Goddard? Great question on this one. We already talked about the Ferguson side a little bit. On the other side, Goddard, his value shoots way up if Devontae Smith doesn't play. I'll go Goddard just barely, Hojo. Goddard just barely. Ben, who should I sit out of Montgomery, Cook, Evans, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson? Do I trust Deontay Johnson? No. I'd sit Deontay Johnson. Ryan, trade CJ and St. Brown for Lamar, Jacobs, and Amari Cooper. Ryan, I'm okay with the trade. I think Lamar is a fantasy football upgrade over CJ. I think Jacobs getting a running back is so valuable. And the difference between St. Brown and Amari looks really big. But if Amari Cooper even plays to his limited potential in the Browns offense, I actually like the trade. So, Ryan, I'll say yes to Lamar, Jacobs, and Amari Cooper's side. Yaman, should I start Mahomes or Daniel Jones? Man, yikes. I'm going to lean towards Patrick Mahomes just barely, but I do think Daniel Jones is going to actually have a pretty good week. Zach, what about Garrett for Brown and Pollard? I like that trade, Zach. I would do that one. Dixie, who the hef is asking if they should trade Dobbins for Chris Godwin? I don't actually hate that trade. I'd actually probably do it because I think J.K. Dobbins' value is a little overrated right now. But it depends if you need the running back. Spence, Shaheed, or Courtland Sutton? Courtland Sutton's going up against Sauce Gardner. Don't like that. I'm probably going to lean towards Shaheed. Meza, Jennings, or Godwin? So again, Tampa going up against the Eagles. I thought Eagles defense played so inspired last week. I don't think that repeats itself this week. I'll go Godwin just barely. Godwin over Jennings barely. Would you trade Pacheco for DJ Moore? Yes. DJ Moore has value right now. Pacheco's value is maybe 6 weeks away at the earliest. I know it's a broken bone, so Pacheco will probably be back this year, but it's going to be so far into the year. You get the points now. Get the points now. This isn't stock trading where it's like, oh, I'll sit on that stock and it'll rise and I can cash in on it anytime. This is a defined period of time where you can make the most of your fantasy football production from your lineup. Take advantage of it with DJ Moore. Dom, Etienne or James Cook? Man, it's a tough one only because the Ravens' run defense has been so good. Ravens are the best run defense in the NFL. For that reason, I'm going to lean just slightly, I think, towards Travis Etienne. Obviously, I really wish I could say I'd take James Cook because he's coming off a phenomenal performance, but the Ravens' run defense is too good. I'll say go Etienne, Dom. Mrs. Lady, Reed or Jacobs at the flex? I gotta go Reed. Jacobs is going up against the third best run defense in the NFL and the Vikings. I'll go Reed over Jacobs. Tim, please pick two. Maybe not. I'd go Shakir, and I'm leaning Rice. Rice just barely over Dell. So Rice and Shakir for that one, Tim. Gus 24. If Kenneth Walker III is healthy, I would play him. I would play him if he's fully healthy. We're going to find out Monday night. Because you both are Seahawks, you'll have the option to slide one in if the other's out. Is Fields worth picking up? I think so. He's got a good matchup this week, at least in terms of the run. I think Fields could have a really good rushing yards game. Tried, tested, and true. Trade away Saquon, Higgins, and Pickens and Darnold for Hall, Kupp, and... You know what's great about TikTok? When we get someone who asks a stupid question, we can just say, see you later. Like, you don't need to waste our time anymore. Isn't that awesome? Andrew Garcia, give up Justin By the way, you can tell I'm a little punchy. You can tell I'm a little feisty. It's 11:20 at night over in Rome. And while I've had a great day and I love talking sports with you guys, you can also tell that, like, my patience isn't what it would normally be if I were stateside at 4:30 in the afternoon or 5:20 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. So I am warning you guys, this is not like the friendliest butt fumble sports you've ever gotten. So make sure you're asking questions that I'm actually going to answer. Jorge, start three. Jorge, I would start Rice, I'd start Shakir, and I'd start Marvin Harrison Jr. Rice, Shakir, and Marvin Harrison Jr. John, pick two. I'd go... John, I hate your matchups this week. I hate everything about them. I hate everything. Cook, bad matchup. JT, bad matchup. Stevenson, bad matchup. I'll go Stevenson and JT, but John, this is a brutal week for you running back wise. Camden Christensen. Camden, not going to answer open-ended questions, bud. Jorge answered that a moment ago. King Daddy, I traded CD, Rashad White, and Singletary for Brian Robinson, Cook, Zay Flowers, and Pittman in a 12-man. I like the trade because Robinson upgrade over Singletary, I think, Rashad White. I like the trade, King Daddy. Not going on there, but I do like it. Tyler Ola, I'd go Singletary, and I'd go Brian Robinson Jr. Tyler Ola, Singletary, Brian Robinson Jr. would be the two. El Pinche is asking about some defenses. I'm leaning for the moment, I think, towards the Texans out of the group that you just named. Going up against Jacksonville, I'm going to lean in that direction. Indy, start Rashid Shaheed or Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going to go Shaheed barely, just barely. He had a really bad game last week. 5 targets, no catches. I think he bounces back. By the way, 2 of those passes were in the end zone, so it's not like they weren't targeting him or he wasn't getting opportunities. He just wasn't converting catches. I think he'll bounce back. Jacob Smith, Saquon and Devontae for CD, Etienne, and Ferguson. Yeah, I probably would do it. You're getting enough value, Jacob. I don't love giving up Saquon right now, but I think CD Lamb's value is probably good enough. Etienne's good enough. The only problem is now you're doubling up on the Cowboys' pass offense. I don't love that, but you're getting out of... I'd probably say yes to the trade, Jacob. I'm going back and forth, but I'd say yes. It's my username, Shakir. It's my username. I'd go Shakir, and up to 2 tight ends. I'd go Pitts. I'd go Shakir and Pitts, but tight end question's a close one. Joseph, David Montgomery for DeAndre Swift and Andrews. No, I wouldn't do it. Andrew Garcia, because I don't trust DeAndre Swift enough. That offensive line's disappointed me too often. Is it okay to sit Hill for Neighbors? Yes. Neighbors has been a wide receiver one so far this year. He's been one of the best fantasy wide receivers in the NFL. You got to go with Neighbors. Andrew Garcia, give up Justin Jefferson for J.K., Deontay, DJ Moore. Andrew, no, whatever garbage they're putting into a big old fruitcake of bullshit. I don't want any slice of it. User 6969, I'd go Singletary. User 6969, I'd go Singletary. Appreciate the question. Owen, Laporta, Gesicki, or Njoku. I'd go Laporta just barely. Eric Anderson, drop Keon Coleman for either Jennings or Mooney. Yep, I would, Eric Anderson. I would, but not this week. Believe it or not. And the reason for that is the Ravens are the worst pass defense in the NFL. So I like the move, but not this week, actually. I'd keep Coleman this week, Eric Anderson. Appreciate it. John, I'm playing against Josh Allen. John, this might be an L for you this week. I'm just setting up your expectations appropriately. Click Aaron Jones, Moore, Brian Robinson, or Ridley for Brian Robinson and Evans. Click. I would do that trade, even though you're not getting the better of it. I actually would do the trade. No, I wouldn't. That's a bad deal. You're not getting enough. You're giving up a 3-for-1. Click. I take it back. I don't like the trade enough. I like Brian Robinson Jr. more than Aaron Jones, but not enough to give up 2 wide receivers to get one back. Click. Tell that other trade partner in that to make it a 2-for-2 or say no to it. Adrian, who do you prefer, Pacheco, Brooks, or Chubb? For the rest of the season, it's probably going to be Brooks, but let's not focus too much on the future, Adrian. We got to focus on this week now. Steelers prods, Amari Cooper and Aaron Jones for St. Brown. Yes, Steelers prods, I would do that deal. Mike, pick 2. Mike, I'm leaning Keenan Allen, and I'm leaning slightly, I think, towards Ridley. I don't know what Steele's status is. If Steele's a full go, maybe I'd reconsider. Tennessee Titans this week, going up against the Miami Dolphins pass defense. Miami's pass defense has actually been good enough this year where if Steele's healthy, I'll put him in, but it's going to be Allen and Ridley for the moment, Mike. Blake, B32. Waddle and Smith for DK. I don't know what Smith you're talking about. If it's Devontae, I don't love the trade. You're giving up a 2-for-1. It might have... I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Gabe, I'd go Carr. Gabe Esquire, I'd go Carr. Carnage, Moore, or Johnson. I'm going to go DJ Moore just barely. Bucky, Irving, or Darnell Mooney. I think I'm leaning just slightly towards Darnell Mooney. Just barely. The Eagles' run defense has been bad this year. I like Bucky Irving, but I think I like Darnell Mooney just a little more. It's close, though. Brenna Ford, Hurts, or Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels obviously looked really good on Monday night. He looked really good last week. Right now, I'm going to ride with Jaden Daniels. The matchup suggests Hurts is the better play, but you know what? With the way Jaden Daniels is going, I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'll stick with Jaden Daniels just barely. Again, the matchup isn't better, but I'm trusting Jaden Daniels a little bit more with just how he's played of late. So that's why I come out. I also like Jaden Daniels rushing for a touchdown. So is real Bears defense or Ravens defense this week? Bears defense. Bears defense. Just because the Ravens defense has not been good enough against the pass, and Josh Allen, is starting to cook, looking like an MVP candidate. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears are going up against a Rams team that overplayed expectations last week, but still so many injuries. I'll go with the Bears defense. Trevin Katz, was trading Hill for Chris Olave a good deal? Good enough, so I'll say yes. Nick, Neighbors and Ayuk for Flowers, Thomas, and Bucky. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because Neighbors and Ayuk could end up being top 12 wide receivers this year. I like the trade, Nick, but I don't love it enough. I think it's a fair trade. I'll put it that way. I think it's fair. I think the opposing owner came up with a really good trade, but I'm going to say no. I know that I'm just going to say no because Ayuk and Neighbors, I think there's too much value there. Zach, Brian Robinson Jr. and Olave for Aaron Jones. No, Zach, please, don't waste our time. User 7327, Shakir or Ford. Both have great matchups this week. I might lean just slightly towards Shakir because Ford does split carries with Deontay Foreman, but both are good starts this week. Ethan, I'd go Josh Allen. I'd go Josh Allen. Cody is asking Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason. New England Patriots run defense has actually been really good this year. Packers have been good, but not as good. I'll go Aaron Jones, barely over Mason. Barely over Mason. Connor James, can Cordero Patterson be a flex this week? I had Javonte and Zamir White. He actually can, because he's playing, I believe he's still on the Steelers. I believe he's on the Steelers. It's actually a decent play. Do I have that right? Yeah, I think that's a decent play. I don't love it. I think it's a big gamble, but it's not a terrible idea. Carr or Andy Dalton? I'm going to go Derek Carr just barely. I know Andy Dalton is coming off a wonderful performance, but the Cincinnati Bengals pass defense has actually been pretty good this year. I'm going to stick with Derek Carr. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are loving the content and loving the show. Cameron Snell, CMC and more for Saquon. Yes, Cameron Snell, I would do that trade. Fredo, would you trade London for Tyreek Hill? Nope. Fredo, no, I wouldn't. Christian, Mason for Mostert. Terrible idea, Christian. Terrible trade idea, Christian. Don't do it. Eric Anderson, I'm probably season long starting the Steelers defense. Steelers defense looks incredible. Liberda, should I trade Brees for Gibbs and Connor? My running backs are Brees and Zamir. I understand it. To be able to get that second running back while you still have Gibbs, I'm okay with it. I would say yes to the trade, Liberda. I'll say yes to it. Tyler Ola, I would start DK Metcalf, and I'm leaning slightly, I think, towards Amari Cooper barely. Luis Martinez, how do you feel about CD versus the Giants? I think he's going to go for at least 80 receiving yards. I could see a receiving touchdown as well. So I guess I would say I'm pretty high on CeeDee Lamb. We have been live for just about an hour, everybody. We've been live for an hour across all of our platforms, despite me being in Rome right now. So it's currently 11:30 at night here in Rome. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content, the conversation. If you do, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're a member of this community. We are live almost every single day, even while I'm overseas on a business trip, vacation. So make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe. Wonderful to have you guys with us. Bray and KB, what should I do with Debo? I guess you're sitting him until he's back healthy. Real 666, I dropped Zamir. Did I panic? No, because I'm not that high on Zamir. I think there are other running backs I actually value a little bit more. Jake Forbes, Akers or Shaheed? Good question, actually. I think I'm going to lean just slightly towards Shaheed, but it's close. What running back do I get? Nope, no open-ended questions. Ryan, I don't answer open-ended questions anymore. Did that for the first 2 years of the show? Not anymore. Parker to the fourth, Montgomery or James Conner? Tricky one. Only because the Detroit Lions are going up against the Seahawks. Seahawks have been a good defense, but not good enough against the run to hold me back. I'll go David Montgomery. David Montgomery would be the play for me, Parker to the fourth. Eric Padilla, Mason over James Cook. Ravens have been a phenomenal run defense. I'd go Mason over James Cook. Why don't you answer open-ended questions? Because it takes a lot of time, and I like doing things, answering questions based on the data that I have accessible to me. Answering open-ended questions, I lack the data, I lack the information to give you a really good answer. So while I'm giving you kind of a half-ass answer, I'm denying other people the opportunity to get their questions answered fast. So I don't answer open-ended questions anymore because, frankly, it's just kind of a waste of time. And I also feel like it reflects a laziness in the person asking it. If you want to know if something's a good trade, come up with the trade idea. Don't just be like, I have this player, who should I go get? I think that's kind of lazy. Josh, is it too early to drop Keenan Allen for Pearsall? Yes, I think it is. Ricky Pearsall hasn't done anything yet. Charles, pick two. Ayuk, Montgomery, Jennings, JSN, or Connor. I'd probably go Montgomery and Jennings, believe it or not. Montgomery and Jennings. BTB Sonny, I'd go Moss. BTB Sonny, I'd go Moss. Trench, I don't like Anthony Richardson at all this week. Brutal matchup for him. Sean, would you trade Jaden Daniels and Connor and Godwin for Mahomes, Bijan, and Flowers? Probably yes. Jaden Daniels' value right now might be a little overhyped. I think he's going to have a great rookie year. I think he's going to be offensive rookie of the year. But I think Mahomes, Bijan, Flowers might be a slightly better deal, Sean. It's close, though. Jay Strizzle, pick two. I'd go, wow, I don't love the matchups this week. Jay Strizzle, I'll go Ayuk and Flowers, but I'm not loving it. Joey, I'd go Shakir. Joey, Shakir over Pickens. Christian Silva, I'd go Darnell Mooney. If you want to drop Keenan Allen in the process, but he's got a good matchup this week. Keenan Allen and the Chicago Bears are going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Rams have have the fourth worst passing defense. I'd keep Keenan Allen, and I'd probably play him. So, C.W. Barrera, trade Henry for Jacobs. Right as Derrick Henry starting to come on, I probably wouldn't. I think Derrick Henry's value is probably still there. I think it's a fair trade, but I wouldn't do it. Eric Harrison, trade CMC for McCaffrey. No brainer, yes. Y'all listen, meow. I'd go Dolphins defense. Y'all listen, meow. The way Will Levis plays, I'll take the Dolphins defense. Appreciate the question. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Eric Anderson, what do you think about Charbonnet's value when Walker comes back? I think it comes down significantly. A. Stanley, 1580, would you trade Olave and Ford for Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet? Hell no, A. Stanley. Terrible idea. Brock Ford, I'd go Shakir. Brock Ford, I'd go Shakir. Tyler Ola, tricky one for me. Asking between Njoku and Gesicki. I'm going to lean, I think, just slightly towards Njoku, but it's very, very close on that one. I lean Njoku barely. Extended Mags, you think Walker will start? If he's healthy, he will. Fredo 17, will you start Andrews or Komet this week? Love the advice. Appreciate it. I'm going to lean, I think, just slightly towards Mark Andrews, just barely. Mark Gonzalez MMA traded Evans, Stafford, and Brian Robinson Jr. away for Etienne, Ridley, and Mayfield. I don't like that trade. I don't like the trade. I understand you are maybe upgrading at quarterback, but Mark Gonzalez, I don't like it. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are loving the content. Play Jordan Love over Baker if he's healthy? No. And by the way, if I were the Packers, I would sit Jordan Love another week. I feel like the Packers are getting an unbelievable return on investment from Malik Willis. I would probably keep Jordan Love sidelined until I know he's fully healthy. I just think it's an easy one. Packers, you've stolen 2 wins with Malik Willis. Ride it out another week. Aiden Thompson, trade Allen and Rice for Love, Mason, and Adams. No, Aiden Thompson. Nope, don't like the trade. Nuv DK, trade Higgins and Charbonnet for London and Shakir. Nuv DK, I love that trade. That's a great trade. Sal, Amari or Jennings? Oof. I'm leaning, I think, just slightly towards Amari Cooper. Just barely. Cleveland Browns play the Raiders this week. Raiders' pass defense is just bad enough. Sal, I'll go Amari Cooper. Appreciate it. Charles, Goddard or Andrews this week? I'm going to go Goddard. I'm going to go Goddard because the matchup that the Eagles have against the Buccaneers, Bucks pass defense, just bad enough. I'll go Goddard over Andrews. JC start Fields over AR-15. James Jackson, I'd start Brian Thomas Jr. James Jackson, Brian Thomas Jr. Jimmy, start Henry or Aaron Jones? It's a really good question. Green Bay Packers run defense so far this year has been pretty good. Buffalo, not as good. I'll lean just slightly, I think, towards Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry over Aaron Jones. Y'all listen, meow, Laporta. Y'all listen, meow, I'd go Laporta. Ryan, trade Montgomery and Amari for Gibbs. Nope, I don't think I'd do it. I think I trust Montgomery a little bit more than Gibbs, actually, to stay healthy throughout the year. Benicio, is Reed for Dobbins a good trade? I don't think so. I think Dobbins' value has really plummeted over the last week. Part of that is they faced already some of the worst defenses that they're going to face this year. And beyond that, Justin Herbert's injury negatively impacts Dobbins, so I wouldn't do it. I think Reed's value is pretty plateau. I think it's going to stay even throughout the year, no matter who the quarterback is in Green Bay, so I'd keep Reed. FX channel or Fight channel or whatever, I'd go Purdy over Richardson. Money Branch, start 2. Money Branch, I'd start Singletary and Moss. Money Branch, Singletary and Moss. Perry, B9. I'm going to go Amari Cooper, just barely. Is Kamara for Hill a good trade? Probably not. I'd rather have Kamara, though he may miss this week. User 199, Ford and Romeo Dobbs for Shakir. It's a fair trade. I'd be okay with it, actually. I think Shakir's showing you enough. The only issue with... I'm okay with it. I don't love giving up Ford, but I'm just not big on Romeo Dobbs. I wasn't last year. I know he had a better year, but yeah, I just know that Dobbs' value is going to come back a little bit when Jordan Love comes back, but I'm okay with the trade. Josh Downs and Pittman a lost cause. I think until Anthony Richardson performs better, they are a lost cause. And I am worried about that Colts team. I thought they would be a much better team overall. But Anthony Richardson is showing the one thing I was afraid of. That he's kind of still a rookie. He didn't play that many games at Florida in college. He didn't play that many games last year before the season-ending injury. Anthony Richardson just actually hasn't played that much competitive football over the last, 4 years of his life. He just hasn't to the level that we really want. So it's not that I don't believe in the Colts' talent on paper. It's that Anthony Richardson is literally going through the maturation process as an NFL quarterback, and we're feeling the effects of it as a fantasy owner. The RJ, Patty Mahomes or Jaden Daniels rest of season for fantasy value, Jaden Daniels. A rushing touchdown from Jaden Daniels is so valuable. I'll go Daniels. Hojo, I'd go Ayuk just barely. I don't like either one, but I'll go Ayuk. Rosie's butt, trade McBride for Kenneth Walker. If you have Bowers already, I'd be okay with it. I just don't think you're actually getting enough value back because Kenneth Walker III's injury brought his value down. Cam, trade Rashee Rice for Gibbs and Metcalf? Yes, a 2-for-1, and you're getting a running back. And you could argue Metcalf and Rashee Rice's value is equal. Cam, make that deal as quickly as you can. Bill R., Laporta or Pitts? I'm going to lean just slightly, I think, towards Laporta. Just barely towards Laporta. Just barely towards Pitts. Sorry, I misspoke. Forgive me. I'm going to lean just slightly towards Pitts. Reason for that, the Atlanta Falcons are playing the Saints. Saints have given up a lot of passing yards. You also saw they can give up points to the tight end position at times. Goddard last week. I'm going to go with Pitts. Bill R., forgive me for misspeaking a moment ago. I'll go Pitts over Laporta. Daniel, Bijan and JSN for Jamar Chase. Don't like that trade at all. Wouldn't do it. Appreciate you guys watching the show. If you haven't done so already, take a quick moment and hit the follow button. If you haven't done so, no matter the platform you're watching on, make sure you hit the follow button. Really appreciate you watching us. Trade Higgins and Mason for St. Brown. Eric, I lean towards a yes, but I don't love giving up the running back. I'll lean towards a yes, but frankly, I actually feel like you're giving up a little bit too much. Mason's an RB1, Higgins a wide receiver 2. St. Brown, even as a wide receiver 1, the difference between him and Higgins isn't so big that Mason fills that hole. Or Mason overfills it. There's a remainder on the Mason value. So Eric, I'd actually ask for St. Brown and a throw-in of something. Masked Panda, do you think Komet could produce this season? I'm really worried. A lot of mouths to feed in the Bears offense. Offensive line struggling. Just not big on it. Subscriber show anytime soon. Toby, I'll probably do a subscriber-only show tomorrow. Yeah. John, would you start? I'll probably do it during the Thursday night football game if I stay up for it. By the way, I take that back. There's no way I'm staying up till 2 in the morning. Yeah. Would you start Bucky this week and JT? I like Bucky a whole lot more, John. I like Bucky more. Wally Kazmi, Adams for Flowers. I'm okay with it. I don't love it, but I'm okay with it. Scooby Taylor, who wins in a Dynasty Superflex? Amon-Ra, 2025 mid to late second round, Pickens early. The Amon-Ra St. Brown part of the trade's the better one. You think it's time to hit the panic button on AR? Ricky, a little bit. I'm panicking a little bit. Dylan, should I trade ETN? My running backs are Najee, and I have Chuba and Bucky on my bench. I don't think you're going to upgrade at running back that much more. I like Bucky, but I don't know. As in, I don't think you're going to get someone better than ETN if you did make the trade. P. Asha, I'd go Andrews. Ricky, I just answered you on that one, bud. JS Llamas, I'd go London. I'd rather have the London and Bauer side. Dominic, should I trade London for Mike Evans? No, I wouldn't do that, Dominic. I think Drake London's value has been established. I'd hold on to him. Bill R., really appreciate the kind words. I'm going to lean towards Zach Moss and Jaden Reed. Moss and Reed for me, Bill R. User 689. I'd go Moss, and I'm leaning, I think, towards Montgomery because the touchdown, it's close between, I say that, and it's close between Jones and Montgomery. With the way the Packers' run defense has been, I think I'm going to lean towards Montgomery just barely. It's very close, but I'll lean Montgomery barely. So Montgomery and Moss, user 6894. JoJo, Terry or Hubbard for a flex, and Dak or Lamar. I'm going to go Dak, and I'm going to go Terry. I'm going to go Dak and... do I mean that about Chuba Hubbard? Panthers this week are playing the Bengals. I'll go Chuba Hubbard. JoJo, I'll go Chuba Hubbard, and I'll lean just slightly towards Dak. Chuba Hubbard and Dak. Trey Wimp. And I'm picking two. Trey Wimp, I'd go Mooney and Bucky Irving, to be honest. Mooney and Bucky Irving. Jacobs or Steele. I guess I'd go Jacobs. I don't know what Steele's status is for this week. I'll go Jacobs just barely. They trade Pittman for Singletary. It only has real value for a handful of weeks, this being one of them. If you're going to do it right now. But you better have Singletary for Thursday Night Football. Christian starting Marvin Harrison Jr. and Neighbors over St. Brown. The only reason I like that idea is the Seattle Seahawks are the best pass defense in the NFL, so I don't hate it, Christian. I actually think you're probably doing the right thing. Crystal Trejo, start 2. I would start Mike Evans, and I'd start Jawan Jennings. Evans and Jennings, Crystal. DYL. I would start Nico Collins, and I would start Godwin. Collins and Godwin would be the 2. Any name now? Man, Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray. That is a great question. Arizona Cardinals this week are going up against the Washington Commanders. So we're going to see these two go at it. Commanders are the second worst pass defense in the NFL. I'll go Kyler Murray just barely. Appreciate you guys being with us. I've been live for about an hour and 15. By the way, Daniel Jones or Richardson. It's Daniel Jones. John 3:16, I'd go forward. Appreciate you being with us. Hope you've enjoyed the show. It's so late here that I'm going to wrap up now. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I know a lot of you guys were throwing them in there. I apologize. We will do another show tomorrow. I'll probably come on live right around the same time. So make sure you follow. I'll be on live longer tomorrow night, by the way. So I was only on for about an hour and 15 tomorrow. I'll be on for at least 2 hours. That's a promise. But Fumble Sports will be on for at least 2 hours. Jerry, thanks so much for the confetti. We'll be on for at least 2 hours tomorrow. And because Jerry gave us some confetti, I will give out a pick for Thursday Night Football. I've got the Cowboys on the money line, but watch out about the Giants covering. Cowboys money line, but if you can get the Giants at like a plus 9.5 or a plus 10.5 or something crazy like that with satees or moving lines, I like the Giants to cover. Cowboys win, Giants cover Thursday Night Football. That's a pick for you guys. I will be back tomorrow, so make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe, make sure you're with us when we are live tomorrow. It is so wonderful to be able to talk sports with you guys. I appreciate your patience and your understanding as I'm overseas. Hopefully the experience during the show was good, and hopefully we got to your question. If we didn't, join us tomorrow night. Until then, have a wonderful Wednesday night, and I will catch you on Thursday right here from Rome. Ciao, ciao. Bye, everybody. See you later.